also understand that you've noticed that there's an effect of the pandemic. This is a new phenomenon that many people are now dreaming of connecting with the deceased.
I think that one of the positive things about the pandemic is that many people have opened up to dreams in general who are not previously prone to paying much attention, to spending time catching dreams or to sharing them. And they need guidance on how to share dreams, which is rather difficult to come by in our culture. Not many people are very good at helping people to understand how to look at their dreams. But a particular area that has blossomed, probably more than any other, in contemporary dream reporting, and I see lots of dream reports. I mean, I lead all these courses. I got all these connections. I can read, if I want to, 1,000 dream reports every day. I don't, but I do. I do read 50 or 60 new dream reports every day. And I would say that the dream of an encounter with someone who is on the other side, someone deceased, has become a very, very popular category for current dreams. And interestingly enough, most of these dreams are not found to be scary or troubling at all. Most of them are loving and reassuring. The dreamers reporting them often feel they're being given assurance. First of all, that departed loved ones, including ones who've been taken by the virus, by the pandemic itself, are okay. They're alive somewhere else, they're on their way, maybe they're still adjusting, maybe they're still figuring out how to use the phone or whatever communications device they're using to talk from the other side, but they're basically okay. In a subcategory of these dreams of the deceased in our time of pandemic, the deceased is showing the living, the people on our side, the living arrangements they've set up on the other side, and sometimes they're showing the living how they can live, what social choices they can make, what educational or work options are available on the other side, as if the dead are preparing the living for the life choices, the life situations that might be waiting for them. Again, as I say, in most of the reports that reach me, there's nothing scary about these encounters. People don't think, oh my God, I'm going to be taken out tomorrow. They think, I'm being given assurance that life goes on. That life goes on and that there are interesting possibilities ahead, and I don't need to be fearful about the time. The time might not be now, but when the time comes, I don't need to be fearful about the time. I think, for example, of a dream in which a woman who'd been a very successful decorator and renovator, that was the business in ordinary life, is fixing up a whole beautiful family complex and a whole beautiful country estate for family members who'll be joining her for one reason or another. And the feeling of the dream, by the dreamer, the dreamer's feeling about this dream was one of absolute joy and affection and gratitude. He didn't necessarily feel he was going to want to live in the family complex with all the family forever on the other side, but he liked the idea that specific individuals in the family were going to be tended and looked after and have guides with familiar faces. So I would say, just backing away from the pandemic issue for a moment, the number one reason by my observation that many people open up and talk about dreams for the first time in their lives is they have dreamed of someone who has died. And they want clarity about this. They want confirmation. Is this really grandma, or is this a part of me? With men, this is absolutely the number one reason why men who might never have shared a dream will open up and start talking. Hard-headed men who never thought that dreams was for real men will start talking when dad turns up in a dream and has something to say. They want confirmation. They want sharing. So this is a very, very important area. And may I just say that there are 3 reasons why contact with the departed is easy, natural, and not weird at all, especially in dreams. This doesn't only apply to dream communication. It might apply to wakeful communication, but it's especially prevalent in dreams. The 3 reasons why the departed are available for easy communication, which can be very helpful. First is they're still around. They haven't moved along. Sometimes they're around because they're still addicted. They've got unfinished business. They're scared. They're lost. They're confused. Sometimes they stayed around because they think we are clueless and need their presence and support for a while because we don't know what we're doing, so they'll stay around and try and give us some guidance for a while. The reasons are mixed. Second reason dream connection with the departed is not strange, not weird, and can be very helpful, is that our deceased come visiting. They come to us for all sorts of reasons. They want an update on the family. They want to reassure us that things are okay. There is a life on the other side. Let's get real about this. There's life beyond death. Notice I'm alive. Yes, I look 30 years old and really good instead of old and in my hospital gown. You can get a life on the other side. They come because they have information for us. To go personal again for a moment. After my father's death, a long time ago now in Queensland, Australia, he turned up many times in my dreams. In one of the first dreams after his death, he was very agitated. He told me that I had to get a message to my mother, who was not big on dreams. that she needed to contact someone called Rodriguez to sort out her living arrangements. Well, you know, we live in an international culture, but Rodriguez was not a common name in that part of Queensland, Australia, back in the 1980s. So I call my mother, who doesn't normally talk about dreams, but she'll listen to a dream from Dad. I said, Dad says you've got to talk to Rodriguez. And so, oh, Ron Rodriguez? Who's he? Oh, he's a real estate agent. Oh, really? Well, Dad says go talk to him. Within 1 week, Rodriguez, previously unknown to me, had helped her sell her apartment and move to the sheltered, protected living environment where she lived happily for the next 3 years of her life. So there's a very personal, very practical example of how the deceased might be calling us. My father came calling because they've got, you know, some help for us. And sometimes it's a health advisory. One of the predominant ways in which we receive diagnostic information from dreams is someone who has departed turns up in our dream and says, look, go and see a doctor because you might have such and such, or shows you, your tendency to develop a certain symptom. So there are all these reasons why we meet the deceased, and we learn when we work with these connections that healing and forgiveness are always available across the apparent barrier of death. This is a very important thing to know, because we hold ourselves up, we bind ourselves in so many ways through old guilts and griefs and old agendas and old family histories that can all be cleared. If it couldn't be cleared before death, it can be cleared afterwards, and we can offer each other mutual guidance. And the third thing about, you know, what happens in dreams of the departed, and it can happen in conscious states as well, in shamanic journeying and meditation, and what starts when you're in between sleep and awake. But the other thing that happens in our relations with the deceased, especially in dreams, is we go traveling ourselves. Dreaming may be traveling. And among the places we might travel is the realms, the territories where the dead are alive. So we might learn through our first-hand, you know, excursions something about the afterlife. And there are many afterlife environments. You know, if you want to be very organized about this and go into a sort of community belief system, good luck to you. If you want to go to heaven, hell, or purgatory, fine, good luck to you. But those are not the only options. There's the people in the South Pacific on the island of Puka Puka, whose shamans say there are as many afterlife locations as there are human imaginations. I like that idea. Unfortunately, not everybody is all that imaginative. So when you go into the afterlife, you see a lot of people like those groups of tourists on the street following the sock, following the little pennant, going in lockstep to a certain destination. You can learn more. You can do better. And how do you learn more? Well, you learn more by following your own path, your own desires, your own commitment, and your own connections, and developing a personal geography of the afterlife. It's always a good time to do this. What better have you got to do right now? And all of this becomes, by the way, part of your home entertainment system, which, you know, is ready to work for you in dreaming when you're ready to make yourself available for it.
What you just said brought up a question. I've had dreams about loved ones who have passed, and they're wonderful dreams. You know, I wake up feeling like, oh my gosh, I got to have a conversation with somebody I really miss. But then other times there are dreams that don't feel like that. They don't feel like they were a true conversation, a true connection. There were people that I know who have died in the dreams, but they didn't feel very good. What do you think is the difference between these two different kinds of dreams?
Well, there might be more than two different kinds of things, Lisa, but thank you for bringing up the initial distinction. I think we always are best equipped to judge or evaluate these things through the truth of our feelings. So you following your feelings in relation to this is absolutely the way to begin to understand what's going on. I am constantly with people, in the company of people who have died in my dreams. They're usually, well, the ones I recognize are usually people I've known in this life. And they usually have certain things they want to talk about, which cover a broad spectrum. It might be family things. If they are interested in international affairs or, you know, the world situation, they might want to discuss that with me, which, you know, we might or might not discuss. There might be other things. Or we might just be hanging out together, as friends would do. And I'm never surprised by these dreams. Are they lucid dreams? Not always, but they're lucid in the sense that I'm usually aware that these people are not alive in the ordinary world, but they're alive where we are together. And I don't doubt that these people are the people that I remember, but there are deceptive dreams, and then there are, let's say, costume dreams, in which something else takes on the form of someone that you know. The Greeks, who did a lot of dreaming and a lot of talking about dreaming, noted that the gods like to appear in disguise in dreams and will sometimes put on the mask or the costume of someone you know, living or dead. So what is in front of you might be a god, it might be a daimon, it might be a spiritual teacher, it might be a trickster. And it's always worth asking the psychological question of any element in a dream. What part of me could this be? What part of me is like Rosie? What part of me is like Granddad? You can always ask that question. And that question will take you a certain distance, because certainly some part of you resembles other members of your family. Some part of your family history travels in you, obviously in your genetics, in your body's makeup. And that's worth considering. If I'm dreaming about a certain departed family member, does that mean that I'm dreaming about some physical tendency or symptom or proclivity that we share? Is it about my genetics? Is it about my possible vulnerability to a problem that came up for them, for example? So it's always worth asking. But I take a basically transpersonal view of these things. I would say to people, dreams are both personal and transpersonal. In other words, dreams are about what's going on in you, body, soul, psyche, emotions. But they're also about your ability to enter a field of interaction with people beyond any simple aspect of yourself. People, as we're discussing, who might have died to this world, other dreamers, people who might be regarded by shamans as spiritual, or by spiritualists as spiritual guides and teachers or speakers for a certain lineage you're connected to. And this goes beyond routine aspects of yourself. Maybe the most important encounter that you're going to have in your dreams actually is going to be with speakers and messengers for your greater self, for your higher self. And in that sense, they might be part of you, but not part of the little you, not part of your personal subconscious, part of a face of an aspect of your greater self, who might be the most profound spiritual teacher you can ever find, and the best counselor you're going to find on all the questions we're talking about and everything else.
Okay, thank you. Now, in your work, you strongly encourage people to spend more time in the twilight zone between sleep and awake. You say that this is the prime time for contact with the departed and spirit guides. So what does this look like for you as a personal practice?
Well, I always pay attention to what's going on behind my eyelids when I lie down in bed in that first phase of relaxation. I might be very tired. I tend to like to go to bed when I really need to lie down and get some sleep. So I don't necessarily spend a lot of time in that first stage. I will be awake at some point during the night. As a matter of fact, I'm a biphasic or polyphasic sleeper, which means I sleep in 2 or 3 clear periods of sleep, not one. So I will certainly in my life be awake at some point in the middle of the night, maybe after 2 or 3 hours of industrial sleep. I might go to the bathroom, I might do something for a while, but then I will lie in bed very alert, relaxed attention or attentive relaxation, relaxed but also very alert. I will watch the images that rise and fall behind my eyelids. I might see a parade of faces. I might start seeing a series of landscapes. I might feel that there's a presence in my space, a presence in my room that wants my attention. This might be the start of a dialogue, of a conversation. And I'll use my own sensors, my own feelings to judge whether the context is an authentic one, a trustworthy one, the right kind of voice, the right kind of teacher. And at this point, I might also find that I'm preparing to go off into a lucid dream adventure, because a scene forms, a personality forms perhaps within that scene. And I want to stay with them, and then I'm off. I'm flying sometimes. Sometimes I just find myself flying from the bedroom. I might also, in this in-between state, go to a place that I know well and I want to return to. It might be a place in this world that I love but can't catch an airplane to right now. Or it might be a place I know in non-ordinary reality in the imaginal realm, a place of entertainment, a place of healing, a wonderful night cinema where I can be star and director and producer and scriptwriter for my own movies, as well as just spectator. All of those things become available in the middle of the night. I might also find in that in-between stage at the night that I have the traces of a dream from the first period of sleep. This becomes very important. If the dream is of interest to me, I can stay with it. I can go back inside it. I can go on with it. So, and this can lead to amazing revelations. Here, for example, I wake at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm in a cabin on Lake Champlain in Vermont, where I was not able to go this month, unfortunately, but where I was some years ago. And I've come out of a dream in which I'm at a table with a beautiful, very civilized, very elegant, very intellectual couple who've come from the East. They've come from Persia. I know they've come from Persia. And they're beautifully dressed. We're having a lovely conversation. I think that's enough lunch. I'm leaving the scene and I'm coming out of the dream. And as I'm coming out of the dream, now lucid, an old friend of mine who has died is running after me, huffing and puffing and saying, Robert, you're supposed to record everything. You're supposed to record everything. I'm lying now at 4 o'clock in the morning on my bed. I have a pad and pencil next to me. Right. I'm not going to the bathroom. I'm going to stay with the dream. I put myself back at the table with the prince and princess of the East. Prince and princess of Fars, a name for the old Persian heartland. And I find that I have in my hand an envelope with a list of questions that have been given to me in the dream. And I start reading the questions and writing the responses. I'm alert. I'm awake. I'm writing on the bed. I'm in the dream. And I'm also in the space of the moonlight being filtered through the louvered shutters on the room and the lake outside. I'm in both realities, fully present at the same time. And I'm writing a dialogue which begins, what is the nature of exile? And the question is about the soul's exile from its homeland, how the soul comes into the body in this world. And the second question is, what are the conditions for the return? And it's about the conditions for the spiritual return to the place of your origin, your spiritual home. It's as deep as that. And by the time I rise, an hour later, I have dealt with 8 of the 20 questions that I have, and it is the most important and most beautiful spiritual dialogue I have ever read, not just that I have written, but that I have ever read. And it's come in this in-between state, and it involves beings who are clearly not of this world. It involves a friend who is deceased and is playing the role of guide. And it's the example of what becomes available in this kind of sometimes luminous, radiant, incredibly psychic and spiritually charged space between sleep and awake. So when I look at people who talk about sleep and dreams and this and that, I say, why aren't you talking about this space? And then finally, in terms of everyday practice, there is the time when you wake up in the morning or you're coming out of sleep in the morning. This is great opportunity time. But the ancients believe that this time, coming out of the dreams in the morning, this is the best time of all to have communication with the departed, with your spiritual guides, to get a creative breakthrough. If you can program yourself not just to get out of bed right away, not just to be jangled awake by the alarm clock or the kids tickling your toes or something or turning on the radio, but stay in bed, linger. If you don't have any dreams, don't worry. See what comes to you. If you do have a dream, stay with it. So there's that phase. I never jump out of bed if I can avoid it. I will lie in bed with my phone making the initial reports, my journal reports on my phone, and enter the day as slowly and gently as possible. And my little dog is very patient. He won't hustle me out to take him for his first walk until I've got enough of this stuff down. So these are elements of practice. And I can tell you it's a pretty good practice. It's a pretty good practice. I really enjoy a day much more when I started by doing some of this.
Thanks for listening. Check out Castle Gate, a novel based on my own ancestral healing journey at lisabonis.com. In 1921, 4 men set off from Scotland to the United States. Will Garrock, his brother Pete, his son Willie, and his nephew Thomas, all coal miners. They left behind the miners' rows and the nationwide mining strike with its soup kitchens. Their destination was Castlegate, Utah, where they had kin to welcome them before sending for their wives and children. They prospered in America, working in one of the finest mines in Utah. Until that tragic day, March 8th, 1924. Disaster struck. 3 explosions, trapping 171 men inside. Rescue crews worked tirelessly for days, but sadly, they could not save a soul. Women were widowed and children were orphaned, and some never recovered from their broken hearts. Castlegate is the true and tragic saga of a Scottish family whose dreams of finding their fortunes in the bountiful coal mines of Castlegate, Utah during the Prohibition era explode in one of the most devastating mine disasters in American history. Learn more at lisabonis.com.